Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. I hope that everyone had a lovely Christmas holiday. I hope that you had the opportunity to spend it with people that you love and mean so much to you, and that you didn't forget the most important part, and that is the Christ in Christmas. We've got some news to go over today that I think you will find extremely enjoyable. First of all, it looks like the DSMSM hacks have been attacking John Solomon because, of course, he's one of the only honest reporters out there today. And I'm sure you'll remember CrowdStrike's theory that the DNC server was hacked by the Russians. Well, that is now coming under scrutiny, as it necessarily should. We've also learned that good old No Name was actually handling Christopher Steele, the author of that dossier, or the author, shall we say. And then I'm sure that everyone remembers from yesterday, the Christmas video, or rather the day before yesterday, we had an extremely strange video from none other than Kevin Spacey, another weird Christmas video. He entitled it, "Kill Them with Kindness," KTWK. Well, less than 24 hours later, one of Spacey's alleged accusers wound up deceased. That's right, he has ended up on the wrong end of a red scarf. So we're going to look into all this and more, and we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor. Hey guys, I spoke with My Patriot Supply the other day, and we were talking about how people prepared from like 2010 to 2016 versus how they're preparing now. And they said they noticed it seemed like a lot of people just stopped preparing when the last occupant of the White House left, as if everything that was being prepared for was just having to do with either him or HRC. But if you do think that, then you're wrong. It's so much more than that. Just imagine the deep state. Imagine what they're willing to do to get their power back. You know, destroying the Constitution, subverting due process, destroying people who are innocent and who've done nothing wrong. Just imagine what's going to happen if they come back into power. Now, I'm not saying I think that's likely. I don't think it is. But personally, I'd rather not be caught off guard. We prepare because the threats we face are bigger than any one single thing. And because of that fact, I've partnered again with My Patriot Supply, and I think that you guys should too. So right now, you can save $70 on a 2-week food kit, and you'll get guaranteed 2-day delivery. And it's at preparewithredpill78.com. Now, the offer won't last, but the good news is that My Patriot Supply will. And don't think you can't afford to not prepare, because they have a lot of different payment options and plans to fit any budget, so you don't have to wait. Get ahead of the chaos today and go to preparewithredpill78.com. That's preparewithredpill78.com. And remember, when you support My Patriot Supply, you support this channel. Well, guys, like I said, I hope you had a very Merry Christmas. Hope you were surrounded by people that you loved and mattered to you. And I hope that you did something good for someone else, because it's all about the season of giving. We are meant to put down our selfish pursuits and give to others selflessly. Now, I know how President Trump spent his Christmas. On Christmas Eve, he called members of the U.S. military who were stationed across the world. He called Marines in Afghanistan, an Army unit in Kuwait, a Navy ship in the Gulf of Aden, an Air Force base in Missouri, and a Coast Guard station in Alaska. One of the most arguably powerful men in the world, taking the time out of his Christmas holiday to call the men and women of our armed forces, the people who are fighting on the front lines to keep us and our way of life safe. And here is an image of President Trump doing just that. I did see on Twitter that apparently he requested no officers. He wanted average, everyday military men and women. He did not want to talk to the people in power because, quite honestly, the people on the front lines, they have all the actual power. And I just want to say thank you to all of them who have donated their time, who have sacrificed themselves and their families in order to go and keep our country safe. And I ask God that they come home safe and sound, and that they are able to wish their own family members a safe and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. All right, next we've got a tweet here from Methods. This is a clip from MSNBC. It says, "Fake news going after John Solomon reports because he's over the target." And remember, our favorite QAnon said, attacks will intensify. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the clip and see what they have to say about John Solomon, whose reporting has been spot on.
But these days, he is probably the single proximate cause for why Donald Trump ultimately got impeached. He was the person that laundered sort of an amalgamation of the Russian deception campaign with sort of right-wing conspiracy theories that ultimately sort of made their way into Trump's mind and led him to not just make those threats with Ukraine, but really dig in on it. And that ultimately kicked off the impeachment hearing. So that is a big, that's who he is. And I think it's the big reason why we named him Misinformer of the Year.
John Solomon named Misinformer of the Year by MSNBC. You can't make this stuff up. John Solomon is the reason that President Trump got impeached? No, I would say that the Democratic retribution, their anger and ire at the fact that they are unable to pin him down and remove him on any legal grounds. President Trump has done nothing wrong. President Trump did not coerce Ukraine. He did not ask for any favors. He said specifically, I want no quid pro quo. I want Zelensky to do what he ran on. I want him to do the right thing. And look at this. Here they are attacking John Solomon because he has been pretty much the only reporter at his level to come out and actually report on the true things that have been happening in the world and that led up to where we are today. I would like to also say thank you very much, John Solomon. Thank you for all of your sacrifice and for your courage to get out there and say the right thing. All right, now, one of the things that John Solomon reported on quite a long time ago, the fact that CrowdStrike's claim that the DNC server was hacked by the Russians was a falsehood. Well, now it is swirling yet again. Other people are starting to take a look at this, and Carter Page is weighing in on the entire situation. Now, it says here, the Gateway Pundit received an email from a self-described cyber expert who claims there's no way that CrowdStrike could have identified Russia as the entity who hacked the DNC server before the 2016 election. Now, the reason is because no entity, including CrowdStrike, has software that can identify a hacker. CrowdStrike's only out is to prove that their software can identify hackers, and they can't. Here are parts of an email that was forwarded to the GP and a group of other top conservative websites. It says, as we work to prepare for the Durham showdown, we have for too long searched for a simplified explanation the people could understand on the Russian hacking hoax, which is a story that has a shelf life and will be weaponized again for 2020. The emailer suggests that Donna Brazil may be the one who leaked the DNC emails to the press. She did leak debate questions after all. The emailer suggests the key is CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is nothing more than Theranos, Google it, on steroids. The company, CrowdStrike, claimed their antivirus software could not only find a hack, but could tell you who was responsible. This is false. Malware is just a series of text files. If you open the file and see Beatles lyrics, that does not in any way make a case for attribution. It is that simple. Just like Theranos, they don't have a working product. They never did. I can show you the proof of that in a live demonstration. CrowdStrike is guilty of fraud, investor fraud, stock fraud, and a myriad of other charges that mirror the fact patterns in the Theranos case. Remember, the day they went public, it was to the tune of $6.3 billion. The day they went public, stocks started being dumped. Classic Silicon Valley pump and dump scenario. This is true in that CrowdStrike did go public and Google was their big buyer. We reported this in July and suggested that this may be a reason the executives at Google cried when Trump won the election. In July 2015, Google invested $100 million into CrowdStrike. Google Capital, the two-year-old growth equity arm of search giant GOOG, announced its first security investment on Monday morning. The fund has pumped $100 million into cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike. It was joined by cloud computing company Rackspace, which is a customer, and the firm's existing investors, Accel and Warburg Pincus. The new infusion represents a Series C round for the Irvine, California-based company, bringing its total funding raised to date to $156 million. Wow, they more than doubled the total amount invested up until that time. Now, CrowdStrike admitted this on their website. At about the same time, the media reported in February of 2015, that was 4 months before Trump even announced he was running for president, the intel community was advising Congress and the White House on the issue and extent of Russian hacking, and blaming Russian hacking, going far back as 2012, on Ukraine aggression. Now, this information was no doubt based on claims made by CrowdStrike. A year later, the only firm that investigated the DNC emails that were being released by WL was CrowdStrike. We asked again in July 2019, how was CrowdStrike able to determine that in 2015 the Russians hacked Congress because they were upset about Ukraine, and then a year later claimed that Russians hacked the DNC because they didn't like Hillary Clinton? That's a lot of Russian aggression. Now, we reported on May 11th of 2019 that Roger Stone and his legal team were requesting the report from CrowdStrike, the firm connected to the DS and tied to Google. Of course, a non-redacted report could not be obtained, and Stone was eventually not allowed to ask this question per the judge overseeing the case, the most infamous Obarna judge, corrupt Amy Berman Jackson. Stone's position was that if the Mueller team and the FBI did not inspect the DNC server, then how could they know that the server was hacked? Well, this logical argument makes sense, but Stone was not allowed to ask this question in his case. Now, the email goes on to continue, so how do we get Capone? Plain and simple. Like Theranos, CrowdStrike software does not work. Plain and simple, like Theranos, CrowdStrike software does not work. CrowdStrike spiked the Yara match file at their NOC to match any malware found to spit out a false and predetermined Russian threat factor, fake, and led this country on the biggest and most costly phishing expedition in cyber history. And the email continues after noting he is working on having Bill Binney's review as well. We are going to tear this DNC hoax playground down to the ground. Now, immediately, Carter Page, the man now infamous for being used as a conduit to spy on candidate and then President Trump, responded to the email saying he will release more information next month. Carter Page said, "With respect to your reference to Donna's book, I cited it in my original DNC complaint on page 45, and I'm planning some important follow-up with that next month." The former acting chair of defendant DNC has also alleged that a meeting occurred at the FBI headquarters on August 11, 2016, involving a representative of defendant Perkins, Pkwy, the defendant Michael Sussman, and staff of defendant DNC. When Michael Sussman arrived, he took out his security clearance badge, likely left over from the time of the Department of Justice. I was impressed. Now, apparently that's a quote from Donna Brazil's book, Hacks, the Inside Story of the Break-ins and Breakdowns that put Donald Trump in the White House. But this emailer makes an excellent point. If it's just a series of text files, then how are they supposed to know that it was a Russian job? Now, if you'll remember back to the release of the Mueller report and the indictments of the Russians in the lead up to the release of that report, they name a couple of specific GRU units that are supposed to have coordinated the actual hacking of the DNC server, and that had something to do with Guccifer. They name these units, okay, and they say they're both located in Moscow, but the actual method by which they were identified was never actually stated. Now, I have a friend that works in the government, and he has stated previously that CrowdStrike is a piece of software that they use in their daily work there, but the way that he has made it sound is that it's not supposed to work in the manner by which CrowdStrike has alleged that it would work. And from what I've seen, there has never been any explanation as to how they were coming to the conclusions that they have stated. So I tend to believe this emailer, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what information they're going to bring in the future. Now, when you put that together with the Bill Binney report, when you put that together also with the information from Adam Carter, the forensicator, stating that the information transfer speed could have only been done on a USB drive, on a local connection, not on a Wi-Fi connection spanning the globe, then once again, I think we have a bunch of holes that are poked into CrowdStrike's story. And I'm looking forward to seeing what information is going to come out in the future, because we need eyes on this. We need people poking as many holes in this story as possible, and we need to get to the bottom of it. I sure hope that this is one of those things that President Trump and his team are going to release in the very near future, because this right here is one of those, kind of never-ending fires that refuses to be put out, and if they're looking to weaponize it again in 2020, I'd like to take all of that ammunition away from them. All right, and several excellent outlets are speaking about this right now. This is from Breitbart, but it says that the IG report has revealed that Christopher Steele funneled claims through none other than No Name after the FBI dropped him. And remember, they had to drop him because it came out that he was taking the same intelligence he was feeding to the FBI and then feeding it to the news outlets such as Yahoo. Now, late Senator John No Name provided disgraced former FBI Director James Corney with 5 separate reports from Christopher Steele that the FBI didn't previously possess related to these unsubstantiated allegations of collusion between Russia and President Trump's 2016 campaign. This is from the Justice Department's recent Inspector General report. Now, there have long been questions about why it was necessary for No Name to pass Steele's anti-Trump dossier to Corney on December 9th, 2016, several weeks after the November 2016 presidential election. Well, by then, Christopher Steele had already met numerous times with agents to provide them with his controversial reports. Now, Steele, however, had at this time been terminated as an FBI source in the fall of 2016 because he was speaking to the news media. Now, the IG report discloses that No Name gave 5 new Steele reports to Corney that the FBI did not previously possess, showing that No Name served as a conduit for Steele's information to reach the FBI, even after that British ex-spy was formally cut off as an FBI source. It's not clear whether John No Name knew at the time that Steele had previously been terminated as a source, although I tend to think he probably did. And that's why he went ahead and did this. Now, Inspector Horowitz's report also verifies that a no-name aide obtained the Steele reports directly from Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson, who has been theorized to be the actual author of these reports, meaning that when No Name transferred the anti-Trump charges to Corney, he had to know that their material originated with a firm that specializes in controversial opposition tactics, Oppo Research. Fusion GPS was paid for its anti-Trump work by Trump's primary political opponents, that was namely HRC's 2016 presidential campaign and the DNC via the Perkins Coie law firm. Now, from the IG report, it said several weeks later, on December 9th, 2016, No Name provided Corney with a collection of 16 Steele election reports, 5 of which Steele had never given to the FBI. No Name had obtained these reports from a staff member at the No Name Institute. The No Name Institute staff member had met with Steele and later acquired the reports from Glenn Simpson. The unnamed staff member is known to be David J. Kramer, who also infamously provided BuzzFeed with the Steele dossier. BuzzFeed published that full dossier on January 10, 2017, setting off a firestorm of news media coverage about the document. Now, prior to his death, No Name admitted to personally handing the dossier to Corney, but he refused repeated requests for comment about whether he had a role in providing the dossier to BuzzFeed, including numerous inquiries sent to his office by the reporter who wrote this article, Joshua Klein. In his book published last year, No Name maintained he had an obligation to pass the dossier charges against Trump to Corney, and that he would even do it again. Anyone who doesn't like it can go to HE double hockey sticks, No Name exclaimed. Now, my obvious question is, why does No Name feel he has an obligation to pass these unsubstantiated and absolutely fictitious reports on to the FBI, especially considering the fact that the author of them, or the alleged author, had been fired as a source due to his questionable behavior? Well, I think the answer to that is quite clear. I think that No Name was in the same position as Steele. He simply did not want President Trump to remain in power. He was willing to do anything to get rid of him. And if that meant passing tainted opposition research on to a corrupt cop in that position at the FBI, he was more than willing to do it. Now, considering the fact that Steele had been fired by the FBI and was no longer working as a confidential human source, that means that he was no longer working directly with anyone at the FBI. Now, we do know that he was working with Bruce Orr, and information was still being passed on, but this right here essentially places No Name as the handler for Steele, the one who was continuing a direct contact and link to people at the FBI, namely corrupt cop James Corney. So now this just draws this web even tighter, and it continues to coalesce around No Name and his aide, and it looks like he has an even larger role than was previously admitted. So again, I'm looking forward to the future, seeing the information that comes out about this, because I bet you that his hands are in this pie even further. Now, if you saw my Christmas Eve video, then you probably saw this special Christmas message from Francis Underwood, the would-be president of the United States in the House of Cards series on Netflix, played by none other than Mr. Kevin Spacey here. And I thought that it was pretty disturbing. Right now, it's number 18 on trending, so that means a lot of people are watching it. It's got almost 2 million views, 1.8 million views, and it's titled KTWK, and he says in the video, "Kill them with kindness." Well, wouldn't you guess someone who accused Kevin of doing something awful, which are the people that he states he's going to be killing with kindness, people who accuse him of things, he ended up no longer with us. Let's go ahead and take a look at the coverage on that. All right, and who is that? Well, his name is Ari Bean. He was the boyfriend of a Norwegian princess and an accuser of Mr. Spacey. He died at 47. He was a former member of Norway's royal family and was one of Kevin Spacey's alleged assault accusers, and he died on Wednesday by suicide, his manager said. Now, the official release says, "It is with great sadness in our hearts that I, on behalf of the very closest relatives of Ari Bean, must announce that he took his own life today." The successful Danish author was married to Norway's Princess Martha Louise between 2002 and 2017. They have 3 daughters, the youngest of whom is 11. Now, the article tells who Ari was. He was an author and a playwright. He wrote some books which were kind of disturbing. One was titled Sad as Hell. Another was titled Inferno. But he is just one of 12 individuals who have made similar accusations against the actor who played Frank Underwood. Now, there have been a number of people who have passed away after making such similar accusations. There's another who was a massage therapist, and he passed away back in September. And then, of course, remember the charges from Massachusetts with the 18-year-old young man, which were dropped mysteriously after something happened with the prosecution. I'm not sure exactly what that was. But I just want to show how strange it is that people in this sphere, people who have made similar claims against this actor, end up finding themselves on the wrong end of that red scarf. Very, very disturbing. And hopefully in the future, people who make similar claims are going to put themselves into some kind of protective custody. Well, guys, that's all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, it's Red Pill. I just wanted to say thank you very much for watching the video. Please do consider supporting the channel by liking and sharing this video. Do also make sure that you are subscribed and that you've got notifications turned on so you can be the first to see my videos when I put them out on a daily basis. If you want to support the channel in other ways, you can always check the links in the description of this video below. And once again, thank you as always for joining me.